the Crimson Man, in my opinion, I think he's just scary. Just the intro in the first movie, like saying, like, eyes, was it eyes like daggers?
And smiles of knives.
Yeah, that was, I think I would have just stopped there and that would have made a class horror movie.
They tell the stories through screams and cries. A smile of daggers and eyes of no. Smile of daggers and eyes of knives. Long fear the words. The Crimson Man will rise.
Crimson Man for me is a kind of demon that, in a way, like as far as I can gather from the story so far, is a demon to other demons, because he's obviously controlling the vampire and probably will control other demons. So like when humans are afraid of vampires or other things pestering them and influencing them, the demons should be on the lookout for the Crimson Man.
The Crimson Man seems to me to be some sort of amorphous concept. I have it in my head as being itself, rather. I have it being, I'm thinking of more like a shapeshifter, like a mass of some sort of intangible material that can mould itself into numerous shapes and forms. Something cosmic. I see it as being an entity shifting through times, shifting through dimensions. You know, the classic nameless horror, the big bad.
You know, during this entire thing, I keep on thinking like all the Crimson Man's like monsters, because that's pretty much what they are, like Count Various and all them. They all like all of them all pretty much worship him.
I think that the drawings that you do about the Crimson Man gets ideas from that. You give him everything to be afraid of.
I mean, I don't think we actually know is like what he actually looks like apart from the drawings I've made.
A demon overlord, in a way, that he can influence other demons. So I would assume he's probably not directly interested in humans. He's just harvesting them as a byproduct of his like trolls, and trolls being like what humans are dreading. For him, they're just like minions.
He is basically sadness, despair, and anger. Whenever you feel any of those, he will be right behind you.
If you've watched the film, you're probably wondering who the Crimson Man is. The idea with this film is I could never be sure, and I still don't know if I'll ever get the opportunity to make the further 4 episodes. It's a 5-episode series, but although it is a self-contained narrative, and it has, you know, these lonely kids that come together, find friendship in each other and do something great and go on this big adventure, there's this underlying dread I wanted to capture about some impending thing, and that thing is the Crimson Man. Now, who is the Crimson Man exactly? It's kind of difficult to say without going into spoiler territory in case we do ever get these future episodes, but as a concept, the Crimson Man exists as this entity. You know, we had multiple artists kind of supply ideas to what the Crimson Man looked like based off of my briefs, and it became very quickly apparent that although the Crimson Man has this calling card of this mask, the Crimson Man himself has no set form.
So the story behind the mask of the Crimson Man is it actually started as a prop for an animation I was doing back at the university, and the main purpose of the prop was to avoid lip syncing the actual character. So that's why you have the jaw and like the chin as separate pieces. So then you can kind of like rig it to make it like a puppet animation for the face. I had to kind of leave it behind when I moved out, and it lingered at Daniel's until it was picked up for the project. We only had one mask, one physical mask. It was made of Super Sculpey. We wanted to do 2 more for the actual film, so I had to do 2 semi-identical masks out of Super Sculpey, which was a bit fun because you had to like start the sculpt on one side and then to the other one, the same steps, fall through, then bake it. Obviously, as usual with baking, they kind of warped a bit. And then once I delivered them, one got shattered in 5 minutes. Fortunately, we needed it shuttered for the takes, so that was cool. The other one survived, at least to my knowledge.
The Crimson Man himself has no set form. As an idea, the Crimson Man is something that sort of exists almost in kind of Lovecraftian terms as this eldritch entity, something beyond the perceptions of what humans understand. He's not even necessarily the Crimson Man. He's not a man. He's not anything really that we can comprehend. It's just when people have encountered him, people kind of want to sort of put things they don't get into boxes to kind of make them more tangible as ideas, and the Crimson Man kind of became the one that stuck. He's not necessarily a force of evil in the way we think of morals, but he's this thing, this force of nature that exists outside of the ramifications of good and evil. He's this force of supernatural nature that has always been there. If you look at the companion comic that me and Timo put together, the Crimson Smile.
The meaning of the comic, like the purpose of it, is to set the scale for how everlasting is the Crimson Man. So what the comic does is it shows Crimson Man's activities, sort of like how he's stalking people throughout the ages. You have a wide section of periods from like ancient times to modern day through the war periods of like Second World War or First World War. The main thing about him, he has one consistent feature, which is like this sort of the main features of the mask. So you have the lines under the eyes and the middle line, the bottom line, and segmented jaw. But then you can play with it, because since it's a shapeshifter, the body does whatever it wants, and the mask kind of like remains similar, but it doesn't have to be exactly the same. So when I was doing the drawings for conspiracy theory wall behind in Jack's place, I could do like almost anything with it, and in some cases it doesn't even have any of the consistency features. It doesn't need them. So in case of Crimson Man, you can do almost anything with the shape, and then every once in a while you would go back to the original mask just to keep people remembering that this is what we're dealing with. But in general, at any given point, it can be something completely different. If it needs to be, it can be unrecognizable.
The Crimson Man is very, very, very linked to Jack. You see lots of allusions to this in this first film, in this first episode. Jack's drawing a lot of strange things and putting them on his bedroom wall. And should the series continue, we explore the idea that this imagery is coming to him in his dreams a lot, or rather his nightmares. I don't want to say too much, but maybe Kyle knows a bit more about the Crimson Man than he even maybe thinks himself. And ultimately, the Crimson Man is going to serve as this overwhelming antagonistic force that's not only responsible for the monsters and adventures that the kids have to go on, but also of a lot of anxieties that they have in general. As a creation, he's almost a manifestation of the idea of loneliness, of fear, of concern, of anxieties. And you get a little bit of that bleed out in Jack this episode, but it'll really sort of come to be explained in further episodes, and I can't say too much in case those ever happen. But needless to say, I'm really, really, really interested in exploring this character and how the kids and even some of the adults handle encounters with him. And I think Timo and Pabby Slater and Duncan did some amazing work in kind of getting this weird abstract concept onto paper and amalgamating all of those ideas into what is essentially going to be the Crimson Man.